Let's welcome on Alonzo Bowden. Yeah, let's hear it for him.
Oh.
Born in New York, lives in Los Angeles, and I have been informed, this is odd, you're a Clipper fan.
Absolutely.
Which means you were a Clipper fan when they were owned by Donald Sterling, who was racist.
Yes.
How did that as an African-American male affect you?
Well, when Donald Sterling said he didn't want black people at his games, I don't know if he knew he owned an NBA team. I mean, when you talk about not knowing your product, okay, it would have been tough for J.J. Redick to be out there by himself looking for, who do I pass to? What do I do?
Absolutely. So, how long have you been doing comedy?
22 years. This month is 22.
So if you're 53, 22, you were a late starter.
I got a late start. My initial career, I worked on aircraft. I moved to L.A. I worked at Lockheed. I used to build airplanes. Then they started drug testing. And I said, I'm going to go with the funny.
Totally understand. You look like you're semi-healthy. Are you gluten-free healthy?
I am not California healthy. I eat gluten. Sometimes I sprinkle gluten on meat just to have a little extra, going for me. But
pop.
Yeah. People have always talked about that, about me being in shape. Another reason I love the Clippers, they actually help me pick up women. I tell women I played for the '89 Clippers.
Really?
Nobody knows who played for the '89 Clippers. You can use that story. Google '89 Clippers. Google is like, we don't know. If he said it, he was probably there, because those were the days. That's when it was fun being a Clipper fan.
Was it Pooh Richardson or something like that?
That was Danny Manning, and that was before Wakandi. That was, see, I don't even know. And I was in the locker room.
Yeah,
I was there.
You were starting.
I didn't. That was when you would go to a Clipper game, and the Clippers would actually be out front selling the tickets, saying, "Hey, you want to come on in? Here, you can have my seats." Yeah.
What do you make political? It's kind of a circus on both sides: real estate mogul and socialist. With whatever side you take, it does feel like for a comedian, it's a great ground for material.
Donald Trump is fascinating because he's so far out there, you can't argue with him, you can't question him. He says things like, this is what you said has been happening. They come to comedians like, you got to love Donald Trump. No, because we can't think of anything funnier than what he actually says.
Right.
My favorite Donald Trump line early in his campaign, when he was mad at the Mexicans, he said, Puerto Ricans are my least favorite Mexicans. And I was like, mine too. That's the best I could come up with. Mine too. Never liked those Puerto Rican Mexicans,
Wow.
And Bernie's okay. Bernie's the old guy with some good ideas. Bernie's having a good run. And then one day it's going to come out, oh, Bernie wants to raise your taxes. And everybody will be, remember Bernie? Remember Bernie when he was running? Yeah, that was fun.
I'm not a gun owner. I probably shouldn't advertise that. It's highly contested in this country, very inflammatory. Would you do gun humor, or is that too inflammatory?
Absolutely. Because, I know gun guys, and I'm a car guy and a motorcycle guy, so I get it on that level. The people who just like it for maybe they like shooting or the mechanical beauty of a gun or something like that. But the gun nuts, the guys who say, I got to take an assault weapon to the grocery store.
Right.
You ever notice those open carry guys only open carry in the safest places possible? They open carry at Chipotle, but you don't see them going down to a liquor store in the hood saying, hey, I got a gun. No, because everyone else does too. So, you have to, there's no balance, there's no common sense, and that's where the comics come in. That's our job, to tell the truth and say, like, look, you're crazy. When you say the only answer to a mass shooting is more guns, if everyone had a gun, it's a dark movie theater. If everyone had a gun, everyone would be dead.
Right. Pretty good point. Alonzo Bowden joining us, comedian, comedy special, Historically Incorrect on Showtime, Friday, February 19th. When you think about constructing material, do you have to write every day?
I write when things strike me as funny. When something happens and it strikes me as funny, I write it down. I'll make a note of it and work on it later. So yeah, I'm always prepared to write. I may not write all the time, but I'm always prepared to write when a thought pops into my head. We have the Oscars coming up. There's like no black people are nominated.
Yeah, how does that sit with
you guys must really be upset about a black guy taking over Star Wars. you know, we
Yeah.
were just kidding. We'll give it back. we just thought we could go in outer space. I've done some acting. I always play security to the stars. I was the security guy in Bring It Down the House.
Yeah.
You know, I played a bouncer on Dr. Ken's new pilot. I played Leslie Nielsen's security in Scary Movie 4.
Why is that?
You know, I don't know if it's typecasting. I have range because sometimes I'm a bouncer and sometimes I'm a security guy. You see, so
Yes.
I can go.
Either way.
They're limiting me in my art, and I'm getting a little upset.
Do you like Hollywood as a Queens guy? Queens
Yeah.
has a real feel to it. It's tough. There's a neighborhood. LA's all spread out.
You know, you just have to remember that Hollywood isn't real. That as long as you remember it's not real, it is a lot of fun. You get to play. There's a lot of glamour. There's beautiful women and nice cars and free food, and you know. But the minute you think it's real, like I've never got a job from someone who said they love me. You know what I mean? You do the audition or you finish a set at the Laugh Factory, you come off stage, oh, we love you, we love you. It's like, never get hired by the guy who loves you. You get hired by the guy who says, yeah, it's good work, let me think about it.
Alonzo, when you were on Last Comic Standing, and I'm trying to think of the group, I think somebody passed away on that group.
No, we are all still here. You're thinking of Mike Pace. Mike was a couple of years after me.
Okay.
Great guy. He was a New York comic.
How did that change your life?
It was an amazing change because it was my introduction to America. So I went from, you know, grinding it out, doing comedy clubs, traveling around, getting the occasional cable spot, late night spot, something like that, to being on primetime TV every week, and literally millions of people watched. And
I watched every episode.
yeah, it was unusual being recognized, and also because when we did Last Comic Standing, and I did it with John Heffron and Gary Gulman and Tammy Pescatelli and Kathleen Madigan and on, we all noticed you'd be traveling, like you'd be in the airport. We lived together on the show. We did the reality portion of the show. People would start talking to you mid-conversation, and then you'd be, wait, I don't know you. You saw me on TV.
That's right.
You know what I mean? Because they know that you like to eat.
You're a part of people's lives.
Right. They know what kind of sandwiches you like to eat, and they know when, you know, me and Tammy were talking about being stuck on a runway, leaving an airport somewhere or whatever. You know, it was a great experience though. It was also when social media was just starting.
Just starting.
So I did it in the days of MySpace. So we didn't find out people didn't like us for like a week. You know, as opposed to now with Twitter, literally as you're telling the joke, your phone's vibrating like, no, we hate you. We don't like you at all.
You don't bomb at this point.
I bomb on individual jokes. You don't bomb on the set, but sometimes you try an idea and it just doesn't work. It's happened 3 times since I've been sitting here. But anyway.
But when you go out, are you experimenting with some stuff?
Always. There's always something new to talk about because I love doing topical humor. I love doing, you mentioned politics. I love doing social issues, you know, whether it be race or healthcare or guns or gay marriage or whatever. And when you talk about that stuff, it's continually changing, so there's always something new to work in. And sometimes you do it, you don't have time to rehearse it. You know what I mean? You have to get on stage. I work with jazz musicians. I love them, the creativity of the music and what they do. But I always tell them the difference is they get to rehearse in a studio. You can only rehearse comedy in front of people. So, you know, so you try it out. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but that's the fun. The fun is the new stuff.
So Alonzo Bodden, comedian, comedy special, Historically Incorrect on Showtime, February 19th. I love that you come on the show, and I've told my staff as we've built this show, we took it from the East Coast to the West Coast, that we love that the couch is welcome to comedians and writers and producers. It's an absolute pleasure to meet you.
This is fantastic. Thank you, Colin. I really appreciate you having me on. And listen, go Clippers. They're not trading Blake Griffin. All right? Blake just had a little slip. You know, see, this is what happened. Blake does Kia commercials. And we all know Blake doesn't drive a Kia. But that guy sitting at the table kept saying, hey, Blake, let me borrow your Kia. Let me borrow your Kia. Said it once too often. That's what happens. Get popped.
Pumped him in the forehead. Totally get it. Alonzo, good to see you.